Hello and welcome to Terraria Completionism Part 9. Last time we ended here in the Jade Caverns underneath Sai Village, and now we're going to go over to the Green Dungeon using Automatic Train Station. Whoop, I didn't actually get on the cart. Here we go. It's actually not that far away as a train station, but I felt like I needed another one there. So here we are. So, the Green Dungeon... it's a pretty small build, all things considered, because the dungeon in and of itself is sort of like an organic build in the world. At the very least, what I needed to do was add a dungeon station here, considering it's an important hotspot that would have to be part of the train station network. But besides that, decoratively, you can get the sense that it's sort of a storage area. You have a lot of crates, a lot of chests, books, various shelves full of furniture, chairs, workbenches, bookcases, tables, etc. You know, you got your dressers. There's also a lot of paintings, vases, more books, Gothic furniture, etc., etc. We're just going to go down right here. Now, so the idea is, and why it's a storage area, was that this entire area, when the new Civs came to the Green Dungeon, they had to fight off the Guardians, obviously, to get in. And when they got down into the dungeon, they figured out how dangerous it is, so they just hauled up all the valuables and then blocked it off right here. So that's why you have this sort of... That's why you have this. The lower dungeon is blocked off. You can't get there unless you remove the wall. This right here is just sort of a water hole for fishing, so you can get dungeon crates. I'm actually going to get out of here because there's still too many enemies spawning. There's also a teleporter that goes down into the lower dungeon, but we're not going to go there now. Right, so yeah, that was the idea, is you would just, you know, they took all the valuable furniture that they might use, the ancient Precursor furniture and the, you know, all the Precursors valuables, all the paintings and stuff as well, and stored them up all over this place. You had mostly Gothic furniture down here, and you have like lots of Green Dungeon furniture up there, chandeliers as well, light sources that are off because they're not, there's no oil in them or whatever. Dressers, vases, chairs, there's even some bars here, beds, pianos, and you got lamps that are off, like I mentioned, etc., etc. You just have like a massive room full of furniture over here as well. All valuables that would have been in the dungeon. So the whole lower dungeon is barren because they basically stole everything, and whatever they didn't use, they just kept here, other than the parts that they would have hauled back to the main compound where they actually use, because there is some stuff. There is some Green Dungeon furniture over in the main compound. Now we're headed up, you know, now we're in sort of, we're above ground, and above ground I removed the original, like, dungeon little castle thing, and I put up this tower. And the idea is that the Precursor civilization, and this was their capital, they essentially have, you know, they like to build things in one of two ways, either massive, elaborate underground fortresses or giant above-ground towers, and that's exactly what this is, and we're going to go all the way to the very top. You see a whole bunch of paintings here as well, and crates. This is sort of the very top of the storage area. They didn't go any higher. The cultists are attacking me out here. So you actually notice that this is where the cultists worship their mysterious tablet and summon their voodoo god of evil, whatever. Not quite, it's not at the point to explain what that is in lore. And all the way back here you see Sai Village. This is actually where Sai Village ends, right up against the Green Dungeon capital right here. And, okay, so I'm gonna explain. You have these, like, green brick frames right here. It's almost as if something was hanging here, right? So I mentioned all the way back in part 1, right outside the main castle, that we have the Precursor symbol hanging in, you know, that whole big cross hanging in a ring of tin brick. And the idea is, when the new Civs came here, they found that symbol and they hauled it back to the main castle as decoration because they thought it looked so good. And there was another one over here, so that's where you had two of them. Yeah, this was the actual symbol. It's sort of like a Templar cross, like this, but it was much bigger. So we're gonna go up. This door out here, it leads over to, you know, it leads even farther east. There's actually a little fishing house over there where you can get salmon, but we're not gonna go there. So you have, you know, you have the Precursor symbol hanging right outside along these, like, little green brick rings. You have these pipes which go all the way to the top of the tower. This is ancient Precursor tech. They have, you know, honey, lava, and water. The idea is that they're actually supposed to be flowing up, although it looks like they're flowing down, unfortunately. So the Precursors, they were a very technological race. You notice that there's banners up here. You got the Necromantic Sign and the Marching Bones banners. I mentioned back in part 6 that the different undead factions are different Precursor fortresses and areas in the world. Like the Rusted Company were they were a faction that was in the Frozen Fortress. Right. Well, the Necromancers and the regular Marching Bones, those two factions are from the Green Dungeon, and that's why you have their banners all over this place, and that's also, it's respectively why you had the Rusted Company banner all over the Frozen Fortress. So yeah, the idea is whenever all the Precursors were converted into undead, these two factions, well, these were the two factions that were converted into undead over here, and the way they were. So you have, like, we're gonna ignore where this pipe goes for now. That's part of another video. So we're headed almost to the top here. Now, what converted them to undead? The idea is that it was their own technology. They screwed something up, and they all got converted into undead as part of some, like, crazy technological foible. You see at the top here, there's a whole bunch of bookcases. This area, the top of the tower, was sort of like a control center. It was where a lot of the technology that the Precursors set up, automated, function, and made everything in their world work properly. Ever since the new Civs took over the area, though, and they blocked off the undead armies, we've sort of just taken over this area, set up bookcases, used it as sort of like a study area to study their technology, and which to us would appear like magic. The Necromancers would have been like the magic class. They would have been like the upper classes, and the Marching Bones would have been like the lower classes of the Precursors. And we're gonna go right up to the very top here. You have like a train station, which is supposed to be the very end of the skyline, the very eastern end of the skyline. And right here we have, yeah. So, I mean, this one's a little bit hard to explain. I mean, this is the Eye of Sauron. This is supposed to be the Eye of Sauron. If you watch Lord of the Rings, you might think it's familiar. That is the idea. This happened almost by accident. I had a whole bunch of living fire blocks, and I was trying to make something cool, and then at one point I realized, hey, I could make the Eye of Sauron, and then I sort of built it. Sort of piece by piece. It was almost accidental, the way, how it ended up looking like the Eye of Sauron. But yeah, the idea is that this is like the Dark Lord of the Precursors, the one that controls all those undead armies that currently are subdued because they're blocked off and he can't really get them to do anything. But in lore, this is probably the Precursor AI that was automating their entire civilization and had everything work for them. And for some reason, he went rogue, went awry, and turned them all into undead zombies and monsters and stuff. And that's exactly, what it is. But now he can't really do anything, although, the new Civs still don't control him. He's still just up here, living, existing. And the undead armies are still dangerous as a result. They just can't get up here. If we go one step further up, we have a whole bunch of bookcases, a little bit more technology, and we have the wizard. This is essentially, I mean, the idea here was this was be like a wizard's like study, tower, some wizard study hall at the very top of some tower, vis-a-vis kind of like Harry Potter. You have like the crystal ball here. Those like the lava, honey, and water that was being pumped up the tower is actually being pumped here, so you could make those crystal ball blocks, the glass liquid blocks with the crystal ball. The idea here is that all that material is being used. There's nothing else up here. We're sort of at the very top. There's just, chandeliers. You still have the Precursor symbol up there. More arcane rule. The wizard basically decided to come up here and study the whole area, study the AI, study everything, when this place was made safe. So he frequents this spot and lives here on occasion. But yeah, that's effectively it. We have, the Sauron AI and the wizard's tower up there, and this is what remains of the Precursor capital, at least the part of it that is, well, the part of it that I actually added to the world, not the organic Green Dungeon stuff underground. And yeah, that's essentially it. And if you want to look at screenshots of this thing, the sort of better screenshots, I have them on the forum. You can go check out screenshots and share those if you like, because it's a pretty unique thing. Anyway, cheers, and I guess I'll see you in part 10.